Revelation 1373. From the 6th and 7th of April 1940. Spiritual and physical nourishment. The needs of the body and the soul are completely different from each other. The body needs for its preservation those supplies taken again from the earthly realm. It must be nourished therefore earthly with earthly, in order to exist. That is, it lies in the divine will that the earthly body of humans is also, so to speak, dependent on God's creations available to it, which fulfill again their earth task with the fact that they serve the human body for preservation. Man can therefore never free himself from these otherwise seemingly insignificant works of creation. He inevitably needs them and is therefore in a certain way dependent on everything that contributes to the preservation of his earthly life. And this is wisely arranged by the eternal Creator. He has established the connection between all spiritual with it. Everything in creation is needed, and consequently is nothing without purpose. The spiritual in every work of creation always pushes towards the spiritual of him whom it is to serve. And the connection of everything spiritual is always connected with the release from the old form. Therefore serving the spiritual also means its redemption. The merging of the spiritual with the one and the other form also means an increased work, that is to be of service to the man who needs this work of creation. The body of man needs very many things in his life, and all these must be supplied to him, in order either to aim at the inner structure or also to serve the outer shell for its protection. Everything the human being needs in the earthly existence is provided in God's creation. In particular, every spiritual substance is withdrawn from matter as soon as it is consumed by living beings as food, that is, for the preservation of the outer form. This spiritual substance now joins the spiritual of the living being, so that in a certain period of time again the spiritual attains the maturity to pass over into another form, which again presents greater tasks to the being. Increase of the spiritual by fusion of individual entities and maturation of these by serving in a God-willed sense, is always and constantly the purpose of the change through all works of creation. And in the last stage as man, the body, the outer form, and the soul, the spiritual in man, must now likewise be provided for, with supply of spiritual substance for the purpose of perfection, and indeed now the food received by the body as nourishment no longer benefits both the body and the soul, but it is again up to the will of man whether at the same time the soul also receives spiritual nourishment. And indeed this food must be offered to it apart from the purely bodily food and must also be thought of while receiving the latter, so that it also serves the increase of spiritual substance apart from the preservation of the body. The soul of man can therefore be considered in two ways. The spiritual in the form can be increased extraordinarily by right reception of natural food and drink. And this increased spiritual can again reach an extraordinarily high degree of maturity by supply of spiritual food. By the word of God, the outer form has now fulfilled its last purpose, so that the spiritual being no longer needs it for higher development, but has reached the goal that was set for its earthly career and thus soars up into bright heights without any external fetters. In the last stage of development, an extraordinary amount can be achieved, but the free will is always the reason, since it is now up to man himself to form his soul. Everything spiritual in him, but also the success of the striving, is an extraordinarily valuable one, because it is complete liberation from the form. Amen.